I am Danica.
And I am Myra, and this is a Black Women Healing Podcast.
A space to discuss mental wellness.
A space to dive into soul care and vulnerability.
Here, we will support you on your journey as you focus on your healing,
while also giving you the work along the way.
Welcome to Black Women Healing Podcast. Hey y'all, I am here to announce that our book, Let's Heal, a workbook designed for Black women with various modalities by your co-hosts Danica and Myra, is now at a storefront. And so the storefront is Urbana Goods. It's a community store that brings an upgraded experience of connecting with the community with small crafting gatherings and workshops and supporting other local businesses by housing and selling their merchandise, such as us. And they even sell some of your typical items from the local convenience store. Like y'all, I literally bought some body butter, hair products, and a cute purse all from this store, just to give you a little example. So when you have some time, check out Urbana Goods. It's located in Gardena, California. The actual address is 1756 West El Segundo, Gardena, California, 90249. You can put it in your GPS, whatever you need to do, but go ahead and make your way there and check us out. Hey y'all, we're back with another episode of Black Women Healing Podcast, and we have another special guest, and this is going to actually be a part of our mental wellness, our mental health segment that we've been trying to do. So we're going to be talking about multiple sclerosis today, but before we get to that, as y'all know, and if y'all have been listening, myself and Myra, we decided to start off with a segment where we discuss a quote by a Black woman. So a quote that I'm looking at today is actually by this Pearl. I'm just going to read it off. So basically, Kiara, I'll read it off and then we'll just discuss what the quote means to us and what comes up for you. So the quote says, "A crown, if it hurts us, is not worth wearing," by Pearl Bailey. What do you think about this quote?
I feel where I get from that is, if you have to change yourself or alter anything about yourself in order to wear a certain crown or to fit into a certain role, then it's not meant for you. That's what I get from it.
Yeah. Me too. I think that a lot of times, it kind of takes me back to the whole love doesn't hurt type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hurt is a stronger word. I think sometimes stuff is uncomfortable, right? So let's say a crown is uncomfortable, it may still be worth wearing. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable to grow. So I wouldn't necessarily say throw the whole crown away if you're just feeling uncomfortable. It may be that you just haven't grown into it yet. It may be because you're still growing on yourself. But it just hits different. It sounds like
it sounds unbearable, but growing pains, it's gonna hurt a little bit. That's okay. So I definitely get what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one, but I like it. But so shout out to Pearl Bailey for their quote. We appreciate it. So today, as y'all can hear, we have a guest, and her name is Kiara Whiteside. She's a 31-year-old makeup artist with multiple sclerosis, originally from Georgia. And we'll get to know more about her throughout this recording. But first, let's define multiple sclerosis, just because I think that a lot of us, we don't understand it. And please define it in your own words and the ways that you describe it, because I think that helps, us to remember and for it to be more understandable too.
So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease. How I explain it to people is, we have a protective layer over our nerves, and basically my immune system does what it wants to do and it attacks it and eats away at that actual protective layering. So it creates nerve damage. That's why sometimes you'll see people in wheelchairs or, different stages of their MS, because it depends on what nerve it has attacked and has eaten away at.
Yeah. So it's an autoimmune disease, and it's about nerves.
Yes, it's about your nerves. So a lot of autoimmune disease, you might have a underactive immune system where you get sicker more than others, but mine is actually hyper. So it's doing more than it should, but not in a good way. So it's eating away at the protective layer over your nerves. And if it eats away at that whole layer, it eventually will start eating at your nerves.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining it. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it sounds frightening.
Yeah.
So just get into your own story. What were the early signs for you? And like, how did this diagnosis come about for you?
So when I look back at it, I've always been like a sleepy girl. I've always been fatigued, like high school. I played sports and things like that, but I've always just been tired all of the time. So looking back, those were my early stages. That's a big symptom of MS, is just fatigued and being tired. But what made me actually go get tested, and I knew something was wrong, was I was at work one day and I had like tingling on the left side of my body. It got worse as the day went on, to the point where I couldn't even hold, like I had some pistachios in my hand. I couldn't even grab the pistachios and keep them in my hand. So I remember my manager sent me to the urgent care, and they did like a balance test, and I must have failed it miserably because they told me to immediately go to the hospital. And so I had to stay overnight for tests, and that's how I was diagnosed.
Wow. So like
Yeah.
it's like you found this out with a matter of hours in a day.
Yeah. Yep. And it was like the tingling had never happened before. I don't know what triggered it that particular day. Um, I worked a stressful job at the time, and stress does trigger MS spells or attacks. But yeah, that was my first time having the tingling sensation, and I had to stay overnight at the hospital. I remember I was by myself, and a bunch of doctors came in, neurologists came in the room, and they told me, and I had no idea what it was at the time.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it must have been super scary.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
really was.
Well, I mean, shout out to you for going to the urgent care, because a lot of times
Yeah.
we'll be like, I'll just sit through it. It'll be gone by tomorrow.
Hmm.
Like you went. And you said they did tests. Like, do you remember what type of test they were doing?
I got an MRI. So that's typically what you have to get, because you have to get your brain scanned. So that's how they typically can tell what's going on as far as having MS.
Hmm. So you have to get a brain scan.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So before then, like you said, though, it was no other signs that you can think of, like.
No, just being tired all of the time. I didn't even have like balance issues or anything like that.
Yeah, you said you
Nothing.
were playing sports?
Yeah, I was a cheerleader. I was pretty active. I danced. I was active my whole life, but I was always the type that had to take a little nap. So, that I
Yeah.
was just always tired. I thought my iron was just low. But besides that, that's the only symptom that I had growing up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know this is not one of the questions that we sent over, but I'm thinking about like do they know the cause of it?
No, they don't know the cause of it. They say that it's not hereditary, but I had an aunt on my mom's side that had it.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom has something similar called sarcoidosis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they say that it's not hereditary, but I find that hard to believe. I don't think that's a coincidence. And my aunt, she passed before I was even born. I never met her or anything like that, but she had it. She had it pretty bad. She had to be taken care of. She was in a wheelchair and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times that makes it even more, confusing, of like not knowing the causes and the roots and all that. It's one of those that at this point, it sounds like you just said, you kind of feel like maybe it does have something to do with genetics, but
Yeah.
also just the fact that it can just pop up with
Yeah. And
anybody.
you sit there and think like, was there anything I could have done to prevent this? Or, like, could I have taken better care of my body? Could I have done, and some diseases, like there was nothing you could have done. And so you can't blame yourself. You can't blame yourself. It's just the path that you have to walk, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that kind of goes into our next question, which is, how has your experience with MS impacted your mental health, and how have you navigated this?
So it definitely can put a strain on your mental health. When I got diagnosed back in 2015, I told myself that I was not going to let this diagnosis be the end for me. I always I have days where I'm so tired and I feel defeated, but I have to keep telling myself, if I sit here and just lay in this, then it's gonna overcome me. Have you ever been sick before, like with the flu or something, and you just don't even want to get up? You don't open up your blinds, nothing. And it's like you make yourself sicker by just laying in that, So in those moments where I feel like I don't want to get up and I don't want to do anything, I just pray. I feel like this whole journey has brought me closer to God. And if this is something that I had to go through in order to build a stronger relationship and faith with Him, then so be it. Then so be it. And so that's what gives me peace mentally, is just talking to God and just keeping myself motivated, talking to myself and saying that this is not the end for me, and I'm going to get better, not worse, as time goes on.
Yes. So you have like a really positive mentality. You have a positive thought process, and it sounds like that you try to stay motivated through your spirituality and religion, your relationship with God, right?
Yes.
You say it brought you closer to God. Well, how would you describe that?
I think just being able, you can't really talk to people who don't understand what this is, or any circumstance that you go through. So for me, it's just like having something to lean on, and so I always had a relationship with God, but in those moments it's like, who do you call? Your mom can't give you energy. Your dad can't help you get up and clean your house. They live how many miles away? Like, who can you call on? And in those moments, it's like that's all you got, And so I feel like sometimes God breaks you down to that point where it's like all you can do is depend on me. And so that's how I've gotten closer. I've always had a relationship, but to me, it was just like that's how I was able to keep saying, like, okay, I know that this is a purpose with everything. There's always a purpose.
Yeah.
And just by me being on this podcast, if that's all I ever do with MS, I did something, it was a purpose for this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love to hear that. And I also love the fact that, that you are confident about your relationship with God and what this means for you. So this is for you, Kiara, and for the listeners. So I searched for someone to speak about MS, specifically a Black woman, right? I'm talking about, I was Googling, I was finding research articles, trying to find anything, anybody. And I would find people sometimes, but even finding people was pretty difficult. And then I felt like reaching out, maybe I had the wrong information, or whatever, but it's just been really, really hard. And so I found you through some type of Google search, and I feel like your YouTube page. And so your YouTube is not like you primarily just discuss your experience with MS, right? You're a makeup artist, you have all these other videos and all that stuff. But that video popped up, and it was a blessing. I'm grateful for it, and I'm super grateful that you reached back out even more. But what inspired you to begin to tell your journey and to create a whole YouTube channel?
So I went to YouTube Academy, that's what people say. They learn everything off of YouTube. I learned how to do makeup. I learned everything off of YouTube. So I originally started my YouTube channel because of makeup. And so as I got more comfortable with my viewers and in front of the camera, I wanted to be more personal. And so at that time, I think I had only been diagnosed with MS for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And so I decided to do that video because, like you said, I never saw anyone. I didn't even know about my aunt having it until years later. My mom never mentioned that or anything. So I never saw anyone that looked like me that had this. Statistically, this is not a Black woman's disease at all. This is not a Black person's disease, So I never saw anyone like me. So I was like, let's talk about this. You never know who you're helping. And I just wanted to document my journey, and where I started from first getting diagnosed. And it's about time for me to do another follow-up video now to see where I'm at now with it and how much I've learned and just grown. So I did it for girls like me that needed someone who looked like themselves to tell them what to do and how it's affecting them,
Yeah, absolutely. Was you nervous to share that information about yourself?
I was, because I get really emotional. I'm just a big crybaby. Any little thing triggers me. And back then I was really sensitive about it. I never really told anyone my whole story. So for me to get in front of the camera and explain how my day was going into work that day, the urgent care visit, how I felt when the doctors walked in the room, I got so emotional and vulnerable in the camera, crying and stuff like that. But I doubted myself for a minute and I was like, no, I'm going to keep this up. I'm going to keep this video up because this is real. Everything is not makeup and smiles and being perfect all the time. Like, this is the real me. This is how I really feel in this moment.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds like a breakthrough for yourself too, right?
Ellie.
Yeah. How do you feel like people responded to that video, especially people who maybe have been following you for a minute?
I've gotten great feedback. Just like you probably saw the video years after.
Yeah.
I still get Instagram messages like, why did you stop your YouTube? I found your video on MS. Like, to this day, I still have people reach out to me and ask me about my symptoms, or that they have just recently got diagnosed, or that they think that they have it. And so just off of that one video that I did, like I said, everything serves a purpose. Like, if somebody can see that 10 years from now and it gives them some kind of peace or clarity, then I've definitely done my job.
Yeah. So good feedback. Good feedback. Yeah. So like you just said, a lot of times people don't speak about their experience with MS. And I know you can't speak for everybody, but why do you think that people don't, like, why come we don't talk about this more, especially in the Black community, even though I know it's not a Black woman's like disease necessarily, but Black women do have it too, right? And so why do you think people don't speak about this?
I think that it can be so scary. When I remember, like, when I first got diagnosed, seeing some of my family members, and they were like, I know blah, blah, blah that had it, and she was in a wheelchair. I think it's more so just being afraid of what is the outcome is going to be, and I was almost not ashamed to talk about it, but more so like what people were going to think was going to happen to me later on. Or also, if somebody like me who doesn't show physically any symptoms, people don't take it as seriously. Being around people and like they don't realize, hey, I have this, because I don't look like it, or I'm not in a wheelchair, or I'm not, they don't take it seriously. So I could see that being a reason why people don't really want to speak on it.
Yeah, which is such a shame, to even have to feel like that. And because, as you can see, like you just said, when you have been able to speak about it, like, people want to hear about it. And I for sure, like, and that's why I love especially these, so our podcast, we talk about a whole bunch of different stuff, but I love when we talk about like different medical diagnoses that have impacted Black women and their experience with it, living with as a Black woman. Like, I love these. It just gives us a lot of insight, gives us community, like normalizing it, right? Like you just said, like, and it's what I'm hearing with MS. It looks different in different people, right? Like you just said, it doesn't necessarily mean immediately that you're going to be in a wheelchair, but you very well, another person could, right? Yeah. And so, but the whole point is that you're still suffering from MS. Like, that's the whole point of it. And so I love it. It's visibility for sure.
Yeah.
So how would you say MS impacts you as far as dating and making new friends in regards to leaning on them for support, or just in general, however you want to take that question?
I feel like with building new relationships, it's important, especially with like homegirls, like just to let them know if you're anybody, if you're going to be in my life, that's something that you need to learn about, whether you're asking me questions or you're doing your own research about it. Because if you're going to be a real friend to me and a real support system to me, then that's something you need to know. Um, you got to be okay with me having to take a nap or me moving a little slower or forgetting things. I'm really forgetful. You have to be okay with that. When it comes to dating, being in a serious relationship with someone, that is super, super important that you know about this disease. Because like I said, people tend to forget because physically I don't appear as if there's something going on, but you don't know what the future may hold. So are you willing? Are you ready to take on that sacrifice, that commitment to me? If you need to help me later on, friends, boyfriend, whoever, that's something that's extremely important that I need to know early on before we make it official, take it to that next step, or you got to just step. You got to go. There's no point of being around, period.
Yes. So what I hear is you're pretty upfront about MS and what and the different impacts for you and what people can expect being around
Yeah.
you. Has this ever like impacted your friendships or dating where people have not wanted or have not shown up for you the way that you've needed?
Most of my friends have been around for years,
Okay.
so they're willing to take that extra step and understand it. I don't have any symptoms, I would say, that would impact that as far as friendships. Now dating, I I haven't had anyone that has had to step in or do anything for me. But you start dating somebody, you can kind of tell the kind of person they're gonna be in the future. If you're gonna be able to handle something like that or not. So that's a big factor that I always discuss and I always keep in mind if I decide if I want to be serious with someone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, shout out to your friends though. They sound amazing. They sound like they've been around. Like it sounds like you feel supported and that you
Yeah.
can share your experience and you get the support from them.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay. So just wrapping up, we always like end with a takeaway. A takeaway could be a quote you want to say, could be anything that you want to leave with the audience just to remember, something to practice, whatever comes up for you. So what would you say a takeaway would be for our listeners for today's episode?
I just want anyone listening that has this disease or any disease for that matter to stay encouraged, take care of yourself, find a support system wherever, however that may be, find someone to lean on. And even if you're just listening because you know someone with health issues, do your research, be that type of friend, partner, cousin, brother, sister that you would want someone to be for you. You never know how hard someone has it. You never know what people are going through. So just be that person that you would want in your life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely love that. And we appreciate you so much for doing this episode. And we hope to stay connected.
Definitely.
All right. We'll put your information in the description. So if anybody wants to follow Kiara, her YouTube page is dope. Again, that's how I found her. So please follow her and we will see you all next Monday.